Welcome to Never Rewrite. I'm Isaac Askew.
And I'm Jeffrey Sherman. And today we are discussing minimum viable products, not to be confused with most valuable players.
MVPs. Yeah, I thought this would be an interesting topic for us, mainly because I've run into some questions around what the minimum viable product should look like. You often have times where you're trying to cut something even smaller than it is, and you get a lot of pushback from either your if your MVP is like an internal company thing, you get pushback from other stakeholders on what it should be to be viable, or if it's like for an external client you're doing for freelance work, you might get pushback there from things that you're like, no, that thing's a differentiator for me. We have to have that in there. So I thought it might be good to talk about what an MVP should look like and what to do to kind of understand where that line is drawn.
Okay. I'm actually remembering that I read The Lean Startup, which is where the whole concept of the MVP came from. But we'll have to put in the show notes or tell you to look on Amazon. I don't remember who wrote it. It was a very good book, or I thought it was a very good book, but it's at least 15 years ago. So from that book, the idea of an MVP is it's get something out there as fast as possible that it lets you test the idea.
Right.
That's it. So famous examples of things that you don't need in an MVP that I've heard of. You don't need a way to cancel your account. You don't need a way to change your password. You don't need a way, like, those are all things that you need, but you don't need it. You don't need a system for it. You don't need code for it in order to test your idea. It's, can you build, what is it that you absolutely need in order to test the idea?
Gotcha.
One thing you mentioned that I think is interesting, we should maybe start there.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about a client, and they're like, oh, well, I want to build an Uber for Ubers. And they're like, oh, but I'm going to build Uber, but I have this idea that this twist that's going to make it different.
Right.
And you're like, well, okay, well, and you're like, oh, okay, but the MVP of an Uber is Uber, and then we'll build your twist. And that's kind of that's not the MVP. The MVP is the twist. Don't build the Uber part.
Right. So this is what kind of got me thinking. I was trying to think of some examples of MVPs that are like. Here's one example, I guess. One of them was like a Fitbit kind of thing, like a step tracker. And so if step trackers are not a thing yet, the MVP for you might just be to invent a step tracker that works. But if you have a saturated market of step trackers, which there are, then you can't just do that without needing something else on top. So if you were talking to a client, you're like, let's just get the step tracking part back. You could see the client going, well, no, there's a billion other people doing step trackers. What this makes ours unique is we have something like Peloton. We have like a bunch of workout videos, as well, or some kind of benefit on top of that. And so knowing that is really what helps you understand whether or not that MVP is like the thing they want in it is required.
So in that case, they're conceiving it wrong, because the step tracker is not the MVP. The step tracker isn't even something that they should build. They should not have their own brand. If step trackers are a saturated market, the thing that they should build is the Peloton piece that, in this case, we're saying classes. You should find a existing step tracker that already exists in the market, hopefully many of them, and write software that lets you do a class with the step tracker. And that's the MVP. Later on, maybe you partner with some factory in China or wherever, and you get your own branded step tracker, but that's not part of the MVP. Dude, there's no, if it doesn't have any brand differentiation, then it's not part of the MVP. You should leverage something else.
So does that mean that you could kind of think about it this way? If that you are first to market with your idea, your MVP can be that concept of cutting down just the first thing to throw in front of customers. But if your idea is not unique, your MVP has to be leveraging something that already exists so that you can focus all of your energy on that differentiator rather than reinventing the wheel, then adding the differentiator.
Correct. It An MVP has to be unique.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not unique, then it's an also ran.
It's on
It's
what?
no longer it's an also ran. It's no longer a minimum viable product. Somebody else has already proven the product. So in the step tracker example, somebody has done the MVP for step trackers. Step trackers are now a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy step trackers. You don't need an MVP for step trackers because the product has been proven. You don't need to test and
Got
prove
it.
the product. It's proven. So now you're testing a new way to the thing that you're doing now is you have an MVP for the new use case for the step tracker.
Yeah, I think an important distinction there is like the proven part you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of times when people think about their MVPs, they're thinking, I want to get my product out. Whereas you're going, well, no, no, no. You want to test and see the viability of the thing first. So that's an interesting concept
Mm-hmm.
for the MVP. If someone's like, I want to start my own step tracking company,
Mm-hmm.
uh, they don't need an MVP in the traditional sense, or the sense at least that you're talking about, because of that proven nature of the product. Their MVP has to be something different. So they're thinking about it in the way of like my product versus proving, will this business idea work?
Right. Yeah. You don't need to prove at this point, you don't prove that step trackers are viable. If you've got an Uber for X, you
Mm-hmm.
don't need to prove that Uber is viable, although that the jury's still out on that, whether or not Uber is actually viable. But the idea of I'm going to have a centralized company that pushes jobs out to people at they will accept them and then go do the work. There's TaskRabbit and Uber and
Mm-hmm.
Lyft and Uber Eats and DoorDash, and it's like that model is proven. You don't need to prove that that will work, that people will install this thing and sign up to work for you. That works. That's not an MVP piece. What you need to prove is that your X works.
Right.
The whatever, your Uber for whatever. You need to prove that whatever is viable, not that the Uber for whatever. And that's where people MVPs go off the rails.
Got it. And I think one thing you mentioned earlier was like maybe like for the step tracker concept was
Mm-hmm.
going for the Peloton lesson kind of aspect first, because you could even conceptually integrate with some a pre-existing product. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
with Fitbit already exists, and you want to integrate with Fitbit, so like you can, sign in with your Fitbit account, for example, and have
Mm-hmm.
a 1 month free trial with our videos that are workout videos. And even if you started with that kind of concept first, because that was your differentiator, uh, you could segue into your own product, like you were talking about, with like building your own eventually, your actual physical hardware step tracker. Or maybe you even get lucky and Fitbit reaches out to you and goes, hey, we've
Mm-hmm.
noticed this integration that you built that is actually getting us a lot more users. We want to buy you, or something like that. Dream case scenario.
Right. So let's take the Peloton example. There have been exercise bikes for 50, 60 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Just resistance bikes. And I know from COVID, there are definitely paid video channels that I could subscribe to on my, you know, internet that would stream to my TV, my smart TV, that I could pay some money per month and I could get video classes. So the MVP for Peloton isn't exercise bike and it's not video classes. It was their integration of exercise bike and video classes. And that's an expensive MVP, and it kind of flopped because they had to build bikes, they had to pay people to run classes, and they're making
Mm-hmm.
money. They're hoping to break even on the bikes and then get a subscription to the class. A much smaller thing that they could have launched was a thing that connected to any old bike or gave you a way to, smarter, more recent bikes and gave them people a way to subscribe to classes for whatever there. And I don't know a lot about how Pelotons work. Like I don't know how much feedback the instructor gets
Mm-hmm.
or anything. I'm pretty sure the training is live. And that's all nice and good, but take it back a step. If I don't have the screen integrated into the bike and you have a TV on the wall, suddenly, yes, it's not as nice as integration, but suddenly you've got a lot more customers. And you can find out
Yeah,
the viability of your subscription model there. Because that's what sunk Peloton is. People didn't want to stay subscribed.
got it. So back to the MVP argument.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say argument, I'm talking about people going back and forth about what is the MVP? What is the thing that you've put in here that we think is extraneous that we could cut out to save time and deliver this thing, put it in front of people to get that feedback as soon as possible. You see that battle back and forth when people are pitching the idea, or even freelance folks working with clients, and the clients say, like, my idea, I'm really married to it being delivered perfectly, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go, well, we can cut out X, Y, and Z, and that'll get us faster, but it's in front of your people. And they go, nope, it has to have everything working perfectly. Otherwise, we're scared, and we want to kind of go dark until we've got everything right, and then surprise the market with this perfectly running system. And there's like a lot of argument and back and forth about, oh no, we need to get it out first, that kind of thing. What is your take on how you should deliver that or work with a client that's that difficult?
Don't. I mean, if you need the
Oh.
money, then it's not immoral to get paid to do something that somebody wants to pay you to do. But as a consultant, if at all possible, you should tell the customer that they're wrong and not do it. So
Uncommon knowledge.
I'll give an example from when I was in college, and I met with a guy, and he was convinced he had a dating website idea. He wanted to have it was going to be, and I signed an NDA about this 20 years ago, but that was 20 years ago and it's expired. So if he hasn't done it by now, then his moment has passed. Anyway, he wanted to have JGay, which was going to be a gay Jewish dating site.
Okay.
And so I was talking with him, and I was like, well, how are you going to find gay Jewish people to sign them up?
Mhm.
Because with a dating site, it's all about critical mass, right? You need to have lots of single people on there, or else nobody's going to be on there, and nobody's
Right.
going to be on there until you have lots of single people. So that it's got to go viral, or it's going to be dead. And he was very concerned about, well, how are we going to set up this thing and the dating and keeping people from cheating, and very much a not what is the thing the kids use these days with the swipe right?
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but I've forgotten the name of it too.
I've totally forgotten the hookup thing. Anyway, the foibles of being married. And he was very concerned about, and I don't want anybody to steal my thunder. People see that I've got this idea, people might steal it. I'm like, no one's going to steal it.
Mhm.
So as I recall it, I pointed the guy to, like, here is out of the box dating website thing. And I remember that there was some of the examples that the out of the box software had. This was a proto SaaS, because this is like 2000, so you didn't have
Right,
SaaS back
right.
then. But like, I remember there was a Star Trek dating website for Trekkies and some other equally obscure stuff. I'm like, look, you pay these people $500, they'll set it up, and then you pay them whatever per month. You don't need me. But still, if you expect people to subscribe, you need to figure out how you're going to get the gay Jewish people. Don't worry about setting up the software. So for that guy, an MVP would not have been a working dating website.
Mhm.
It would have been a blank page, a registration page saying, hey, JGay is coming soon.
Right, right.
Right. I'm not even going to take your money. I just want your email address. Can I email you, JGay coming soon. Sign up here to be one of the first to know.
Got it.
And not just so subscribe, get me your email address, and I'll email you later. And the MVP is prove that you can get gay or people who are interested in dating gay Jews to your list. And if you can't prove that, then you don't have anything. And so the
Right.
MVP is not even a dating website or working software. It's a subscribe page.
That is such an interesting concept because my brain has always been wrapped around the MVP maybe just because I'm an engineer, it being a product. And this a couple times this talk you've talked about it being like a proving of your viability. So the idea of it just being throw a subscription page out there in front of people or just gauging interest is such a core component of that to me. It really helps me kind of reshape how I'm thinking about MVPs. So instead of like me going immediately, I'd love to build that thing that seems like really interesting to build, step back a moment and go like, wait a minute. First of all, let's prove, does anyone even care about this? Do you have a list
Mhm.
of people? And if that person can say, yeah, we actually got, 30,000 people excited to use this thing, and you go, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then from there, maybe, you can go along with your engineering mindset and build stuff. But that really kind of helps give me a paradigm shift there. I like that.
Right. Because remember, it's viable, and you need to find viable as soon as possible. The minimum viable product is supposed to prove or disprove that it can work. And you want
Mm-hmm.
to, and the idea of minimum is so that you can get it out, so that you can learn that you can find out viable with as little effort and little resources as possible. So in this example of JGay, if he had set up the landing page and gotten his list, and I'm sure he could have paid advertisements on newsletters and
Mm-hmm.
Jewish groups and whatever blog posts and things of that nature. If he could have gotten himself 1,000 people subscribed, then it would be worth going to the next step, which would be out of the box software. Just turn it on, send out the email to people, see if they sign up,
Right.
and then he could collect money. And if that worked, then the next step is, okay, now start customizing.
Right. Right.
Make it actually Jewish so that you could have, I don't know, throw events around the holidays,
Mm-hmm.
mixers and mingles, something like. But none of that stuff, like customizing a dating website package to know about Jewish holidays, is not MVP.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of extra effort to put into something that people might not even ever see. So
Right.
get your audience first. That makes a ton of sense. Yeah.
Right. Like prove before you build any of this stuff, prove that there are gay Jewish people who want to meet online
Yeah, I think maybe
in
the
enough
concept,
quantity to make it worth your while.
right. I think maybe the concept for a lot of people is if I build an incredible enough product, I don't have to prove that because they'll flock right to me. And I think that's where people are disconnecting, or at least me
That
sometimes.
is true, but you are not Apple,
Nope.
and Apple flops. People
Hmm.
don't remember it, but Apple flops. I'd say like 1 out of 6 times. They go dark and they announce this amazing thing and it flops. The Apple Newton was a flop. Uh, I can't remember. There was some of their computers were flops, like the Lisa, maybe, or that the big hit. Anyway, Apple has flopped lots of devices.
Okay.
About 1 out of 6. Apple TV, like the actual device, was a flop. Apple networking was a flop. Um, Apple servers were not particularly successful. There are lots and lots of flops under Apple's thing, but Apple's a giant corporation, and if they lose $1 billion on something, they just wake up the next day and make $1 trillion more. You are not Apple, right? The whole idea about MVPs and lean is you want to take your shot. You want to find out as much as you can for as little as it costs you.
Yeah, it's a good quote for the episode. So it doesn't matter the product that you build or the idea that you have in that concept. It matters the interest in your idea because everyone's got ideas. You know,
Mm-hmm.
everyone is always like it's like a meme at this point where someone messages their developer friend, "I have an app idea," and you're like, "Oh God, here we go again," because they want you for that. But yeah, if they
uh,
could say, "I've got an app idea," and here's a list of 10,000 people who are interested in signing up today for it, if we had it, then you raise your eyebrows. It sounds like.
yeah, they're like, oh, okay, yes. I mean, honestly, if somebody came to and said, I have an app idea and here's 10,000 people, I'd be like, okay, cool. Here's, 24 companies that will build it for you. It's like $25,000.
True.
Like the day
Yeah.
of an independent person building apps is long gone.
Right.
But I think one thing that comes up with MVPs that is not well understood is it's a confidence thing. People are not confident in their ideas.
Mm.
And so the whole idea of, oh, I'm going to make this thing so amazing, it's going to be so amazing, and people are just going to flock to it. It's the exact same thing of, oh, I can't go talk to this girl at the bar because I'm not buff like Arnold Schwarzenegger and a movie star. But if I was, I'm going to go out and I'm going to become a movie star. I'm going to get really super buff, and then that girl's going to want to talk to me, and then then I don't have to deal with the shame of rejection. Uh,
Interesting analogy.
it's just that it's the exact same thing. It's the avoidance of potential rejection. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you have to embrace that. You have to embrace the idea that your idea might flop. It
Hmm.
probably is going to flop. Most ideas are bad. Most of my ideas are bad. And you just got to get used to the idea of, okay, well, this idea may or may not be good, and I need to find out as soon as possible, because if it's not good, I need to come up with another one.
Hmm.
And you take the pain and the sting out of it, but like, look, it's not that I'm not good. It's that my idea wasn't good. But I come up with ideas. I'm a person who comes up with ideas, and lots of ideas are bad.
Yeah. Being able to fail fast and not take an ego hit with it, and then just discard it and go to the next idea, and then until you
Mhm.
finally find one that hits. That's
Yes.
it's a powerful discipline there, I think.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Well, all right. Any other parting thoughts about MVPs before we wrap up this episode? Any other anecdotes you've got or anything?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, so I guess I'm saying, contrary to people who think, oh, don't concentrate on the word product,
Hmm.
concentrate on the word viable, right? So instead of minimum product, minimum viable. And you want to almost think of it as a series of tests. What's the least amount of thing you could do to prove that there's interest? And once there's interest, what's the least you can do to prove that people will actually follow through? And
Hmm.
then you can build the product. Uh, like in the Lean Guide to Startups, it talks about, if you come up with a service, maybe don't even write software. Offer the service, have the sign up, maybe have some basic minimum framework where people can ask you to do the thing, and then do it manually by hand.
Hmm.
And they call it, I think they call it in the book, doing things that don't scale. Because if nobody cares, then it's not going to take you any time to do it. And if
True.
one person cares, then you can spend the time doing it. You'll figure out how to do it more effectively. But again, you're doing it for one person, and you spending your time doing it for one person is still more effective than you spending your time to build it,
True.
so
Yeah.
that eventually one person. And so then when it becomes overwhelming, when you can't do it anymore with human work, then you have something, then you build the software. And again, it's that idea of, okay, but if it fails, right, it's all about testing. So if it fails, you never build the software.
Hmm.
And you get around the complicatedness of the software by just doing it with humans. And if it that people say, oh, but that doesn't work, that won't scale, I can't do 10,000 of these things a day. It's like, cool, if you have 10,000 of them, you have a product. Right now, show me that you get two. Show me that you have two a day.
And is that the point you think where like if you can actually show you have that kind of interest and you don't have money, you can go to an investor and be like, look, here's our pitch. We have people interested. We've been doing this by hand. We need to raise some capital to see if we can build this properly.
Yes. And that's an easy pitch. Well, I don't know if it's an easy pitch, but it's a compelling pitch to an angel investor. If you say, hey, I have this idea for an app, and I, got a little off the shelf app that just sends things to my back end, and then I do it manually. And I need $50,000 to hire a shop that's going to build this thing.
Hmm.
And they say, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I see you've actually got people coming to you and they're paying you. And so, yes, the $50,000 you're going to build this thing that does what you are already doing by hand. It's still very risky from an investor standpoint, but it's
Hmm.
not it's not taking a blind shot. It's not asking,
It's
it's
not a
not friends
pipe
and family
dream.
money.
Yeah,
right?
someone just coming to you and being like, "I have an idea. I've done no work. I know it's gonna work. Can I have $50,000?" Right?
Right. I've got an idea. I don't know if it's going to pay off, but I know if we build this thing for $50,000, I get like I can show you it's going to bring in $1,000 a month.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'll ever make your 50,000 back, but like there's something there.
got it. All right. Anything else before we wrap up today, Jeffrey?
No, I think we are well beyond the minimum viable definition of product here.
Podcast episode.
Minimum viable podcast, MVP.
Uh, excellent note to leave on.
Awesome. Well, thank you for listening. I'm Jeffrey Sherman.
And I'm Isaac Askew, and this is Never Rewrite.